Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen, Highway and Cemetery Commissioners meeting of Monday, March 9th, 2020, 6:34. First order of business, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. First up on the agenda is acceptance of minutes. Minutes of 2/24/2020, our regularly scheduled meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept those minutes of February 24th, 2020 as written.
Motion made to accept.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sigenovich. Any questions, corrections, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up, executive session minutes 2/24/2020. Town administrator, before I call to a vote.
We can go ahead and release them as well as accept them,
If they're
Mr.
accepted.
Chairman. Yeah.
Chair will entertain a motion to accept and release executive session 2/24/2020.
So moved.
Mr. Joseph.
Second.
Second by Mr. Massey. Again, any further questions, concerns, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up, on appointments, Economic Development Committee. Barbara Zarowski, alternate, request to be appointed as a full member of the EDC with a term to expire 6/30/2023, and I see Barbara is here. Hello, Barbara, come on up. Long time no see.
Yes,
Hey.
regretfully.
Yeah. Excuse me. So, this is just to convert you from alternate to full-time? Now, will that fill your board?
Yes, there will be seven of us right now, yes.
Okay, and you guys are gonna try to seek out an alternate to take your spot?
Yes, always, we always seek people, to volunteer, there's never enough.
Right. Well, let that be a little sales pitch. Anybody out there that wants to get on a fairly active committee in town that's taken on a pretty outsized role recently, we have a seat on the Economic Development Committee. Anybody have any questions for Barbara? Mr. Massey?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint Barbara Zarowski to the Economic Development Committee to be a full member of the committee, term to expire June 30th, 2023.
Motion made, seconded by Mr. Johnson. Any further questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you
Welcome
so
back.
much. Thank you.
See you.
Welcome back. It's like a web, you can't get away. So next up, we have, occasionally we do have things that makes us proud to be town leaders. We have a hero award for one Anthony LeBlanc, Susan Drive in Dudley. Would Anthony and his family like to come forward? Also, I'll ask the fire and EMS chief to come on up. Take a seat at the table, folks. Have Anthony introduce himself and
I'm going to bring up Greg Linsky, the supervisor of regional dispatch, and Mana Wallace of State 911 as well.
excellent. Come all the way up if you want. Come on. So I'm going to turn it over to the chief for an explanation and Greg Linsky for an explanation and a discussion on what this is all about.
So we have three separate awards here. We want to proudly present this award to Anthony LeBlanc for his quick actions on January 27th, 2020, whereas Anthony's mother, Michelle, suffered a medical emergency and could not talk or speak. Anthony sprang into action and called 911 and provided the necessary information for the ambulance to quickly respond to the event. Whereas Anthony's quick action saved his mother's life, you are a true superhero, Anthony. And it's signed by myself and the Board of the Selectmen. And I believe some of the people that were on the ambulance are behind me in the audience as well. Tony and Steve, they're back in the corner there, and Paige, who took the call. But I'll turn it over to Greg.
So we also have a very similar award. We have a Superstar Award, a certificate that is to commend Anthony LeBlanc for your outstanding use of 911 in a time of need, awarded this 9th day of March, and it's signed by the Board of Directors, the Operations Board, and myself of the Regional Dispatch. And like Chief Kochanowski said, Paige Moros is here. She's the one that took the 911 call. And I think I can speak for any of the dispatchers. When we have a cooperative and helpful caller, is probably the easiest call that you can take. And to have a 7-year-old who was as cooperative and helpful and able to answer the questions he was able to answer, Pretty unbelievable in my book that he was able to do that at such a young age. So I'll turn it over to Mona Wallace, who has a brief presentation as well.
Thanks, Greg. You gotta kind of lean in, sorry, Mom.
Sure. Hello, Anthony. Congratulations. Anthony, on behalf of the Massachusetts State 911 Department, we want to honor you and commend you for being a 911 hero. That's a big deal to us. On January 27th, 2020, while home alone with his mom, Anthony called 911 to report that his mom was choking and losing consciousness. Anthony was able to provide the dispatcher with his address, continuous updates on his mom's condition. When the ambulance was close by, he went outside to flag them down so that he could take them to his mom. The Mass State 911 Department hereby recognizes Anthony LeBlanc for knowing how to report an emergency and saving your mom's life. This is signed by the Executive Director of the State 911 Department, Frank Posniak. Everybody with the State 911 Department thanks you. You did a wonderful job. Congratulations.
So Anthony, well, does he want to bend the microphone in and tell us a little bit first, or does he want to talk a little bit?
He's a little bit shy. And
Okay, that's fine. While we're getting organized, I also, like I said, Chief and Greg, the ambulance paramedics are here, Paige, dispatch, Officer Magus, I believe, was on the call. You guys, credit to the town. We appreciate everything you guys do also. Outstanding, Anthony.
We're going to take a picture before everybody sits down, okay?
Yeah, come on up, Anthony.
Come on up, Anthony.
Congratulations, you got a credit to your family. What a nice young man. Anthony, congratulations. You're a fine young man. What a nice
Well
young-
done, Anthony.
Nice young man you have there.
Nice, fantastic.
Hey, you can stand in the front. You can stand, no, you can stand.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm not saying anything, I'm waiting for somebody else to hear. What about Marcy?
What about me?
He said,
I can sit.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
See you, Greg. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Outstanding. Next up, under public comment.
Hey, Anthony, will you come back to the Board of Selectmen someday when you're not as shy and tell us what you were thinking and how you were able to do that by yourself? Will you come back someday and tell us?
Next time.
That's awesome.
See before his mother put it around her arm.
Doesn't have to be today. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Hear the
Hey,
story.
thanks, guys. Great, great, great.
He wasn't shy when it counted, though.
Nope,
No,
absolutely not.
7 years old.
Yeah. That's impressive. Next up, on the public comments, citizens' comments, informational only, anybody wishing to be heard, not on the agenda, not requiring a vote of the Board of Selectmen.
Seeing none.
Going once, gone. Town Administrator Report, Mr. Ruda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I brought it up before. I wanted to mention that the RFP for our transfer station will go out this week. I think Michelle's putting the first version out tomorrow. This does not fall into 30B, so we don't have any requirement to go out to RFP. We can directly negotiate with vendors that may want to pick up the contract going into the next fiscal year. But based on some of the work we've done, I've had a chance to sit down with the treasurer and the accountant, and we've kind of crunched the numbers with some of these, with the transfer station, and what we're finding out is that aside of the fact that we're going to be overdrawn this year, we're already $20,000 in a hole, right, Vinnie? It's about 20,000.
The end of the year will be about.
So we actually sat down and we costed out this fiscal year's expense, and we projected next year's. And the projection was based pretty much on the rate staying the same. So next year, we're projected to be about $145,000 in the hole. Now, I realize that for years we've always said that the recycling center paid for itself and it was self-sufficient, but that's just simply not the case. And I sent out some spreadsheets just to let members of the board take a look at it. So I'm sure that this section of my report will be talked about, I'm sure. So one thing I want to make clear is that I'm not going to make any recommendation that we don't have a transfer station or a recycling center. That's, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to recommend that it remain, nor am I going to make any sort of recommendation for layoffs for that center. But we do have to look at alternatives in a more cost-effective model, because at the current rate, it's just completely unsustainable for us going forward, unless it becomes the board's policy to take those kind of hits in the years that come. So I want to get some competition going and see if we can come up with a better way to do it. We had scheduled a presentation for the Stevens Mill project by Camden Partners for the 30th. You'll see under this section in my report, we now have a special town meeting on for the 30th. To talk, and it's going to have one question on it so far, and it's going to be a sponsor special legislation that will help us get incentives to get Stevens Mill rehabilitated. And so I'm hoping that when we get the finalized language, I can send that out and we can attract 51 people to come to that meeting. It's going to be held in this room, and pass that town meeting article that will request that the Commonwealth look on that project in the same way that they would look at other statewide projects, such as those that fall into 23B. Just as a side note, Assistant Chief Connection and I took a walk through Stevens Mill. I talked to the owner, George Peterson. We took a walk through Stevens Mill on Friday, and the condition inside the mill it's unbelievable. And I'm actually surprised that there's an investor group that's showing any interest in it at this point. There's the water infiltration. It's all the way from the top levels all the way down to the ground floor. The floors are all buckled. It's in really rough shape. And I strongly feel that if they walk away, if we lose these investors who are now interested in this project, I don't know if we get another bite of the apple before that mill slips into the river right in front of our very eyes. So I would strongly encourage people to attend this meeting, give us the chance to offer incentives to try to keep that piece of history alive going forward. And it's certainly going to be a lot more to come. We're going to have the presentation from Camden. For anyone who's interested, members of the public, we encourage all town committees and boards to show up on the 23rd and listen to what they have to say, see what they're proposing. And we certainly hope everybody will make an effort to come out for the 30 minutes it will take on March 30th to ask the state to help us out with that special legislation.
I just want to interrupt 1 second. Mr. Joseph and I had the opportunity to participate in a meeting with town council, town administrator, Rep. Durant was present, our interim planner, and a representative of Senator Fatman's office. And publicly, we'd like to thank Rep. Durant for his suggestions and his speed at which he got the paperwork to the state to come back and give us guidance what to do. He promised us he'd do it within 2 days, and I think it was within 1 day we had an answer.
The governor's office, Mr. Chairman, has agreed to sponsor the bill.
Right.
I mean, the special act. So that's a step in the right direction. I'm meeting with representatives from the governor's office tomorrow, from Housing and Economic Development. We have a rep coming out, and we have the Municipal Economic Development liaison coming out as well to meet with us,
Right.
to talk about the best way to approach this, because there's a lot of political travails that we need to stay clear of, but still get, accomplish the mission, which is to incentivize that project.
Right, I just want to echo, one sec, Paul. Jonathan, we know we need 51 for a quorum. I mean, just between the presentation and the town meeting, I strongly, strongly encourage anybody that can, that has desire or wants to see that mill flourish in one form or another. Manufacturing's not coming back. That mill cannot be rehabbed to the point where they could handle manufacturing. And I truly believe, as the administrator said, if this does not pass, it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to slip off into oblivion, or the fire department's going to have to surround and drown, and hopefully won't be anybody in there messing around lighting fires, because it's just we have to do something. It's at that point. Fire chief, then Paul.
I would just implore the community to support whatever's going to go in there, because I've had a slew of problems with that building. From the time I took office in 2011, people living in there illegally. The owner, we have outstanding fines with him, which I've been asked by the administrator to hold off on pursuing because of this project, which I have done. But like he said, it's to the point of no return now. If these people don't invest in this, it's either going to fall over or burn down. I mean, it's a life safety issue. I understand there's other boards and committees that would argue with me, but again, common sense needs to prevail in this. I mean, it's getting to the point of where it's ridiculous. So, I mean, really, if you're a community member, you really need to support whatever's going to go in there from this current project we're trying to get off the ground, because, like I said, that would solve all the problems. It would bring everything up to code, and you'd be getting tax money from it. So,
Right. Appreciate it. Paul.
Yeah, two quick things. One is that when that was run as a Dudley flea market, and the manager was Michael, I actually did more than one time a tour of the entire building and the hardwood floors, and just the stonework. I would be heartbroken if we didn't save that building. And as Jonathan said, we've already had 7 or 8 potential people come through, and none of them panned out. This one, I think we have the best chance of getting it done, generating more in the way of real estate tax than what is currently being provided by the building, and preserve an incredible amount of history for the town, and, by the way, for the country, in terms of what Stevens Linen produced during the Civil War and earlier. And the second thing is that the work that Peter Durant did, and the governor's office agreeing to support a bill for our special legislation to allow us to amend the bylaw, would enable the bill to pass or be enacted by a voice vote and not by a roll call. And had it gone, or if it went to a roll call, there would be potentially serious issues and objections and discussion and delay. So a simple voice vote may be a blessing, not maybe, would be a blessing for us to get the legislation passed, and we owe Peter that. He did a nice job on that.
Mr. Chairman, before we get off that subject, just as an aside, we were actually in there not related to this project. We were in here because I was contacted by Regency Motion Pictures. They're making a movie with Christian Bale, and it's a horror movie, and they were in New England, they were in Worcester, they're gonna do some shooting in Worcester. They came to Dudley to look for a mill to shoot in. And so that's how we happened to go through there, and to the degree that there are some historic-looking areas where they could actually set up a scene and film a few things. They also want to have some exterior shots. They're not sure that it's safe enough to have the actors in there, because the floors that Mr. Joseph is speaking about are all buckled. There's holes right in the middle of the floor looking all the way down. So when I say it's dire, it literally is dire. I think this is the final shot that we have at that mill. But more to come on that, maybe in the near future.
Anybody else on Camden real quick? Okay, sorry, Jonathan.
That's all right. And then, finally, Mr. Chairman, not to belabor this point either, but of course, everyone knows that I've received some feedback over the past few weeks over the project that took place in Village Cemetery relative to the tree removal. There's a few things I want to say. The first thing is, I want to reiterate what I said at the last meeting. The Board of Selectmen plays no role in selecting what trees in town are going to be trimmed, removed, cut, whatever the case may be. That's not their role. They're elected policymakers. And to the degree that there seems some drive to assign high-level blame to it, once again, I'm going to say that to the degree that I should have been more tuned in or could have been more tuned into the project, I will accept the highest level blame for that, if there's any blame to be assigned. And to that end, I've taken a couple of steps. The first one is I started working on a rough draft procedure for any road work that will be taken, that will be undertaken. And when I say road work, I mean non-emergency road work, non-snow removal type road work that would take place within a designated historical district. And that would, that procedure would include notifying me of what the scope of work would be, and I'll place it on the agenda for the highway commissioners to review within that district, and make any sort of determination that they'd like to from there, whether it's referred out to another town body or another entity, is until we've come up with a suitable and agreeable way to proceed forward with road work within the designated historical district. And the same for any non-routine maintenance. When I say non-routine, I mean something other than trimming, cutting grass, taking care of the routine things within a cemetery. I would ask that the scope of work be presented to me. I will put it on the agenda, and the cemetery commissioners will have the opportunity to review the project and the scope and weigh in on that. I think that's where a lot of this broke down. The highway superintendent has asked if he could address the board under departmental communications. I'm going to ask that maybe we do it now under my town administrator's report, if that's acceptable to the board.
I just want to say something too. Got a little bit of feedback after the last meeting. We all had comments after what happened. I want to say it ran 50-50 support and against what happened. I think it leaned more towards our direction. I appreciate Jonathan, the town administrator. Buck stops with him. But also, I want to reiterate, similar to what he said, that we're policymakers. We're not out there looking at every branch, tree, limb. We're not out there at the fire department, EMS looking at staffing. We're not at the police department. We're policymakers. We trust our department heads. to do the job and do the job right to the best of their abilities. And before I go too far down the road, I'm gonna have Vinnie, the highway superintendent, give his presentation with his side of the story. And again, as we stated at the last meeting, could things have been handled differently? Maybe. Will we learn from it? Probably. But once again, we trust our people to do their jobs. And like I said, we'll let Vinnie give his presentation and things will be a lot clearer, I believe. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Paletta and then we'll have questions after.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make one point very clear. The trees that were removed for a safety reason. And that's my priority in this job and for the town of Dudley, is make sure people don't get hurt. And these walls were getting pushed over by these trees, and they're about ready to fall into the sidewalk and into the roadway. And with safety in mind, that's the reason why them trees came down so fast, because it is that much of a safety hazard. And I'd love to have anybody that challenges that to actually walk up that sidewalk, look at all the trip hazards, look at the wall bulging, and then give me what their opinion would be after and before they walk that sidewalk. Like I said, that was a pretty high hazard area, and it still is with them walls in the condition they're in. And the walls are definitely under the historic register. The trees are not. So instead of waiting for the walls to fall down and then try to figure out how to fix them, that's a really good picture right there. That wall is bowed out at least 6 inches and ready to fall on top of the sidewalk, which the sidewalk is elevated, so that's going to fall into the roadway. And like I said, my biggest priority is the safety for the town of Dudley. And that's the reason why the trees are down. It's got nothing to do with aesthetics or beautification and on the other side of the wall, in the cemetery itself, all the roots are growing into the graves. They're lifting the stone markers, they're tipping the stone markers, which that's fixable. And it's not a safety issue, but I just throw that in there too. But,
It would be a safety issue if somebody was in there and it tipped, if they were next to it, and
yep.
you can see it right there.
But them walls they need a lot of work, and they're gonna need a lot of money to fix. And I think that should be the focus of everybody right now, is now that the trees are gone, figure out how you're gonna fix these walls up.
I clearly state on behalf of the highway superintendent, who put words in his mouth, no, it wasn't a malicious tree removal. I mean, people made it sound like we sent somebody up there with a bunch of chainsaws and just said, like you said, eradicate it, get it out of there. It was not. There was a reason behind it. And again, could it have been handled notification differently? Maybe. And will we learn from it? Yes.
I just want to add that the removal of the trees, the way I took these down, there wasn't one branch dropped onto the ground, because I know it would damage the stones below, the tombstones and the wall. So this was a crane and a tree company working together, and every branch that was cut was lowered to the road. The road was closed. I tried to accommodate the town's, and I knew it was going to be a traffic issue because I had to close the road, so I really, really tried to get this all done when Shepherd Hill was on their vacation. However, I could only get the two companies together for one day in that week, so that's why we took all the limbs down, came back another day, and actually the school was in session, and we closed the road, and it was a traffic nightmare, but they got it done pretty quick. But every single branch that was cut, or a log or a big limb, everything was lowered to the ground with a crane. So it was very, very expensive too. But I didn't want to ruin anything any further than it's already ruined.
Anybody have questions for Mr. Paletta? Mr. Joseph? Thank you, Michelle.
There's a lot of people, Vinnie, that have asked, called or stopped at my home and asked the question, who made a decision to take the trees down in the manner in which they were taken down?
That would be me. When you say the manner, what do you mean by the manner? Using a crane?
No, I mean, rather than cutting a tree a tree root at the wall, separating that root from the rest of the tree.
I'm not following you, I'm sorry.
Well, there are a few ways that could have been utilized to stop the roots from damaging the wall. One of them would have been to sever the root just before it got to the wall, and there would be no more growth at that time. And then when it came time to rebuild that wall, it could be rebuilt and the end of the root could have been cut out. And that would have stopped any further erosion of the wall and the sidewalk. That would have taken a lot more time. But to delimb the tree completely and then to cut the tree down. And I wasn't there, and I didn't inspect it, nor should I have ever inspected it, to decide, if that was the way to go. You're hired to make those decisions. You did make the decision. It came down, and you're taking responsibility for it. And that's all I really wanted, was to have the question answered, because it's the one that almost everybody has asked: who made the decision? Now, I've heard rumors that other members of the buildings and grounds staff or highway department made those decisions. And the answer is they did not. You did. Is that correct?
We all got together and we all looked at the problem, and I made the decision to take the trees down the way I took them down.
Okay. So that's the answer that people were looking for. And hopefully what we'll do, and I've talked to Mr. Reuter about it, I hope that we will, with the Historical Commission, and any other individuals that want to participate, get appropriate specimens of trees replanted, and that we get the largest specimen of each kind of tree that would be appropriate.
Well,
And not that we put in these little teeny things that, it'll take 100 years to grow.
Well, as being a tree warden, if you're gonna have a big tree like that, you're supposed to have room for uninterrupted area of 25 feet around that tree.
Move it.
Where the roots are gonna go and grow in and lock that tree in forever. Well, not forever, but from 100 years. These trees were doomed the day they were planted, being so close
They
to
were
that.
very close.
I mean, the root system, if a heavy wind came, them trees would go over. Hopefully, it would fall into the cemetery. Well, I shouldn't say that,
No.
because if they
No.
fell into the cemetery,
Preferably.
they're gonna crush all them stones that are
So
several hundred years old.
As long as we make the concession to put in, to replant historically appropriate species into an historical cemetery, probably the most historical cemetery we have, as part of the historical area, district, then we're doing the right thing, as you believe you did in taking them down for safety, public safety reasons.
That's the only reason they're down.
So, that's my position on it. I hated to see them come down.
Yeah, me too.
But when I saw how close they were to the wall, I realized that there wasn't a whole lot that you could have done differently.
I think you explained it well, too, Vinnie. I mean, the way they came down, they craned them down.
It was a very expensive
They weren't
project.
dropped,
Yeah,
right.
very.
There was absolutely nothing else.
It was done out of respect to the people who were buried there and the families, the way it was done.
Any other questions for the superintendent?
Yeah.
You good? Vinnie, I thank you for your
Thank you.
time, your honesty. Take off.
Thanks, Vinnie.
Anybody here that wishes to speak on the trees doesn't require a vote. Seeing none, move on. Next on the agenda. You done with your report, Jonathan? You were done, right?
Yes, I'm all set, thank you.
We'll just accept the administrator's report into the record as presented. Thank you. License and permits, we have none. Public hearing, we have a continuation of 2 public hearings from 2/24/2020. Board of Selectmen will continue a public hearing initially posted for Monday, February 24th, 2020 at 6:35 to be continued to Monday, March 9th, 2020, 6:35 at the Dudley Municipal Complex, 71 West Main Street, Dudley, Mass., and the Veterans Memorial Hall, room 321A. Purpose is hearing to act on application for a change or alteration of premise for J&S Blue, Inc., DBA Cindy's Pub, located 6 Chase Ave, Dudley, Mass. 01571. Anyone wishing to be heard should appear at the time and date specified or submit concerns in writing, and the chair declares the public hearing open. Good evening, Sherry. Cindy, how are you?
How are you?
7:10. Thank you, Mr. Massey. So I believe we left it, you were gonna meet with the police chief, go over what the plan was. The police chief was gonna report back to the administrator of the board. Chief, wanna come up?
Mr. Chairman, I met with Ms. Sidney last week, went over the area, so I have really no issue with where she wants to put everything. We discussed a couple things as far as where to cordon off the area. If you're looking at the building, there are 2 doors. There's the main entrance, and then to the right of the main entrance is another side door. So she's agreed to cordon that area off, and that's going to be the only means of getting in and out of that fenced-in area out on the side. And we did discuss about some areas, she has some cameras out there, so we had discussed about putting some more in, or some different kind of access over there that she's agreed to look into. And also just discussed too about it being some type of seasonal thing, or talking about hours that would ever be conducive for her. So everything would seem to be okay at this point, as far as I can tell from at least a trial perspective.
Any questions for the applicant or the chief? Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, I want to be sure that I understand, that everyone understands, that what we're being asked to do is to allow people of age to travel outside the building with open containers of alcohol and to consume it theoretically in the parking lot that's cordoned off between the building and the area that's going to be used for recreation, as well as the area for recreation.
This doesn't.
Is that the recommendation?
No, it does not include the parking lot at all. This is basically just the side area. If you're familiar with the location, they used to have 2 volleyball courts over there. Now they have 1 volleyball court,
Yeah.
and they have horseshoe pits and other outdoor game things out there. So it's strictly the area that's off the parking lot. So what we had discussed was she was going to fence off from basically that door down across the edge of the parking lot in the grass, down to the dumpsters in the back. So the parking lot's going to be open. There's not going to be anybody out in the parking lot in that area.
Okay, then it would make sense for us to designate the area where the activity is going to take place and the area between the building and where that area is, to designate that also as part of the recreation area premise, and then we would have to approve the possession and consumption of alcoholic beverages in the newly defined recreation area. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mr. Johnson?
It's just one more time so we're absolutely clear. There's a grassy area that goes from the door to the recreation area that's not the parking lot. And it's almost like a funnel to get into that other area. Does that sound right?
Right, so you've never been there? Do you
No.
have a picture in front of you?
It's the 10,000-foot Google map one. I thought we had a.
Yeah.
There are some steps that come out, you come out onto
You
steps.
can't see it, it's behind that tree, right?
Right.
You come out onto steps from that side door, and then they'll go immediately to the left into that area.
Okay.
Yeah, and that door will only be used for in and out with alcohol. So there'll be like signage, like on the other, like main door that's, you would come through the parking lot, it would say, you know, no alcohol beyond this point. I mean, they don't, I mean, we watch for that anyway, and they're not supposed to do it as is. But it would be a separate door that is used for in and out. Like, you're not gonna be able to like come from the parking lot, like right into the recreational area. Like, you're gonna have to go in, so that way you know, some 12-year-olds not coming in and jumping over there and getting beers or something. Like, it's gonna you have to come up to the bar and go right out into that fenced-in area.
Okay. Good.
So, Mr. Joseph used a good term in his, this is gonna be seasonal, right? We're not, like, this is only when you have,
Yeah, like, I'm
Your
not gonna be
leagues.
out there in the winter.
no, but like in the fall, if there was no league, like, people aren't gonna be outside, like,
No, I'm not gonna be like, yeah, if I don't have an event or a function going on,
It won't be
they're
open.
not, that door's gonna be like shut and locked and they're not gonna be allowed out there. So like, if I have, my volleyball league, horseshoes, cornhole, or if I'm doing like a fundraising event, cause I do a lot with the Thompson Little League, or anyone else wants to have some kind of, event, cause I host a lot of things on my indoor space as far as like things for Cub Scouts and painting parties, things of that nature. If, they wanted to have a volleyball tournament or something like that, but, horseshoes is, maybe a couple hours a night, like, they're not gonna be, anyone on a Saturday night shouldn't be out there at midnight or something.
Right.
It's gonna be used probably 3 to 4 times a week at most for a couple hours a day. I don't plan, it's not gonna be like a daily thing, but I can't say for sure right now exactly what hours, like, it's gonna, horseshoes might end at 9:30, but like, come 11 o'clock, I shouldn't not be out there.
right, you're gonna have staff out there monitoring, making sure there's no
Weird stuff, yeah.
going from the parking lot or whatever. All right, Mr. Massey?
Well, it was good. Mr. Johnson clarified it, just so everybody's sure. I'm good.
Do you have a question?
No, he answered he asked my question.
Kerry?
I have two. One, are you okay with this, Dean?
I talked to Nelson. Yes, because he knew that I spoke to him, because he had called him, and I talked to him a couple times, actually, and he said if everyone else is okay and he's okay, he was okay. Okay. He may have, but he didn't speak with me. He must have, because he said he made some calls and he looked into a couple things and he said he was okay.
I just want to make sure you're okay, because there's one exit that's going to be kind of not how it was. That's all.
A little bit more, that's what I would do.
Okay. And I just have a question. I see there's like a rectangle in pen. That's where the fence is going? Oh, we're up here. So the fence, you're going to fence in the area like a rectangle where the volleyball court is, where the
Right.
horseshoe pits are?
Yeah, so can I like that, can you touch this thing or no?
Oh, yeah.
Like this?
Yeah.
Oh, no way. How do you do it?
Use it on the pad.
This thing?
Nope.
Oh. So see here, this is like the end of the parking lot.
Yep.
This is obviously, all this stand is my volleyball net, volleyball area. So there's gonna be fencing from here, the corner of the property, going all the way down, and there's actually a permanent fence right here already. And then this is the main door, right next to the deck here is the main door that we use all the time. This is a door right next to it that we don't use very often. I've probably only used it a handful of times since I've been there. That's where you would come in and out with any alcohol beverage.
Okay.
So this would be enclosed. We have a camera here now and one on the deck, This has a permanent fence already going all the way down to the edge of the building, and then it cuts across. So the chief recommended that, like, I put a camera in this section, because I have one here and here.
And what height of fence are you putting in?
It's like a temporary fence, because I'm gonna roll it up in the winter, because I'm not gonna be out there in the winter, so I can plow.
2 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet?
4 feet.
Is that, you're good with that, chief? 4-foot fence?
Yeah, I think, and the way I explained to her as well, too, it's, I think the board would probably do this on a trial basis anyway, see how it works. But again, I don't see it from at least what she's explaining. It doesn't sound like it's going to be like a nightly use type thing where people are going to be going in there all the time. It's going to be more or less for leagues and things. And I think she has plans to kind of clean up the area, maybe put some bleachers in and do some other stuff like it used to be before. So, so I told her that I'm sure the board would do it probably on a contingent basis and try it out and see how it works, and we can review it again at the end if there's any issues.
I'd be okay with a contingent basis, see how
What do
it
you mean, like
goes.
the end of the season, you mean?
Well, I think you'd do it for the year. And I think like we spoke to her, I said, try to pick a date that you would like to start, and then something that you'd like to have your finish date. So if you wanted to start April 1st and go through like November 1st, or, you know, November 15th, or whatever it is, but pick a couple dates when it can start, when it'll end, and then set your time frames as far as hours go. So again, nothing after 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever time you want to set for a time frame. That might be worth consideration.
Could that like almost be like an unwritten rule? I spoke to somebody, would it be a confusion on the actual license? Like I'm only applying for a seasonal license? You know, how would that work on a license?
We
You know
could-
what I mean?
I'm sorry.
Like, I'm not, like, some people have a seasonal license. Like, I don't want a seasonal license. Like, I don't want it to interfere with my regular license.
No, we're just looking at an alteration.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a second license.
No.
Right,
What we would do is, we would add that we would extend your current license
right,
to include outside consumption, possession and consumption, in the newly designated recreational area, and the approach to the area from the existing building. And that's all we do.
okay.
And that means you're covered in getting from the building to the recreation area and back, and it's seasonal.
Right, the language would have to say also something to the effect, for the sole purpose of, to support the outside activity. Like, as Sherry said, the intent is not to be out there if nothing's going on. For example, if we don't include that language,
No, you're right.
and somebody goes down there and they say there's, make 20 people outside, but they weren't playing volleyball, they're just outside having a couple cigarettes and maybe having a couple drinks, we have to make sure it's to support an event that's being held at that time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That way you're covered.
Right.
Guys
yeah,
aren't gonna
and
go
that's
walking
really,
out.
I don't have to wanna worry about it if I'm not out there, cause like, we play in these, you know, particular leagues and stuff. Like, I don't want, you know, people just to be coming in and out, you know, so it's gonna be specifically for that event, you know, or if I do a fundraising event.
Right.
Like, or like, Sunday afternoons is volleyball, Thursday nights is volleyball, Wednesdays typically, you know, horseshoes, during that period of time. But, you know, if, we had a tournament or something on a Monday, I don't wanna be restricted to like Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday, you know what I mean?
No,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna be out there when it's, you know, in December and it's cold anyway.
Right, but you're not gonna be out there if there's nothing going on either. Like,
Right,
if volleyball's
right,
canceled on a
absolutely.
Sunday because it's raining, and then it gets nice, you're not gonna have 10 or 15 people out there just hanging around doing nothing.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Johnson?
I'm not sure I understand why would we try to tie some language into you know, a temporary nature, because if, you know, anything goes wrong, you know, obviously it's going to be the end of it either way. So, you know, tying in is this a temporary measure or a full-time measure, to me, it doesn't really matter, because no problems are allowed.
Right.
So
So,
it's a one-shot deal anyway, right? So I just,
Unless
Yeah, we gotta get the language right for, during recreational periods, but I'm not too worried about whether it's a 6-month trial or a
No.
permanent measure, because the end result of this is a problem, it's
It's a
done.
license, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with Mr. Johnson.
It's an addendum to it, I agree.
So instead of coming back twice, if everything's good, it's good.
I think what the chief was just indicating was like, don't wanna put words in your mouth. End the outdoor activities, whatever, pick a date, November 15th, and then we review after, just, I mean, obviously, if there's an issue, we'll know about it. But I think you're trying to say put a sunset on the activity.
You know, it's, yeah, completely up to you. That was gonna be my recommendation, but if you wanna go through, as a conditional license, that's fine. Only thing you might have to do is just for the outdoor activities, if you wanna consider any time frame, because I believe the regular license goes to 1 o'clock. So if you wanted to restrict anything outside,
Yeah, no, I don't have a
certain
problem
hour,
with
but-
tying the time of the day or the number of days, or, I just don't think you know, why make it a temporary opportunity? Because if it doesn't work, we're gonna call you back and it's done, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a problem either way.
Yeah, so
know?
that's why, you know, if it's good, why just let it run?
I'm fine with that, Mr. Chairman, if you wanted to
So
go on that route, that's
Would
fine.
the boards, get a sense of the board, would a time limit be more appropriate, like a daily time limit, not to exceed, pick a time, 10?
Is there any precedence? So, once again, I don't want to make up new things.
Well, no,
Right. If there's, is there any other businesses that have any similar situation around?
yes, Nichols, they do their outdoor entertainment.
Well, we do have a
We tell
noise
them-
policy.
But Nichols also, we tell them when, they ask us, we tell them when they have to end their outdoor activities. So it's very similar, they work off their alcohol license through the state, but they come to us and say, we wanna be out there till 11, we can tell them no, 10, 12, you know.
But that's how, Mr. Chairman, that's how they set up, Nichols sets up their events. They say, we're gonna do this from X to Y. They're not running a place like Cindy's where they're open until 1.
No, but it's a similar thing. where-
Right, but I mean, I think, to Mr. Johnson's point, we say yes to this and let the business owner do how they wanna do it.
However, if we're gonna use Nichols as the example, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
all this stuff is contingent on the weather. They always have rain dates. If it
Right,
rains,
rain
then they're
dates.
not expected to be out there.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure anyone else is, you know, we've all had some recreational sports events. And I don't know about you, but you play in that last game when 3 games before you go long. You don't want to tie that time in too close and be too restrictive. Part of it's the planning of the event and knowledge of the game, but yeah, just want to be careful about tying something in too tight,
Well,
because then you run yourself into trouble.
I see your point. I think we should, I know we have the noise ordinance, Paul, too. I think we should strongly consider, I would even say, like Shari said, if it's a couple-hour event, whether it's horseshoes, I would strongly consider a time, say even like 11. That should be plenty late enough. Nobody outside after 11. 10 on a weeknight, 11 on a weekend. I mean, I don't know. It's just,
What do you, Mr. Chair, what do you expect it to be, Sharon?
I expect it to be no later than 11. Probably more like 10, but I want to like cover myself. Like he said, if you're like, you know, you have a horseshoe league, you know, somebody got stuck at work, it starts at 7, they didn't get there till 7:30, so their games got pushed back or something like that, but it really shouldn't, it's usually like a bunch of older guys that just like shoot a little bit and then like go home, so it's a couple hours. I'm hoping they kind of stay around a little longer because of this, but, and you know, stay around and eat, because I'm doing a lot with the kitchen and so forth, so like, and we're kind of like making an event out of it, but, you know, we shouldn't be out there too late at night anyway, because I was wondering about the noise time, and that's something that we talked about anyway, just like, you know, just the noise. I would imagine that there's some kind of time limit for the neighbors and stuff. I don't know exactly what time that is, but I don't plan to go past like 11 o'clock. And
Mr.
I
Joseph.
don't even see myself out there on a Saturday evening, or if I did a fundraiser, it'd be like a Saturday day.
Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe we're getting into this theoretical minutia. The question before us is very simple. 1, define the area and grant the license that currently exists to include that outdoor area. That's number one. Number two, we already have a noise policy in the town. You don't need to spend all this time in bullshit about how much time and when, and if some guy's late for a horseshoe match, all right? We have a noise policy, and that's it, period. So it's not complex.
What time is the noise policy go to? Like, when is it noisy? Is it 10, 11?
It has it varies on weekdays and weekends, but it has a time, quiet times
Right.
between a certain time in the evening, which varies, and a certain time in the morning, which I think is around 7 a.m. Pretty much, 7 or 8 a.m.
You can't run someone's business.
Mr. Ruda can get you a copy of the current noise policy.
You can probably look it up online too. Just wondering.
You don't have a
What time
choice.
it was, if it
You
was
don't have a
11.
choice. You gotta stay within that noise policy
Yeah.
time,
That's no, I
That's
have
fine.
no problem with that.
and we need to extend the license. That's it, period.
Oh. We can't motion in the public hearing,
I
but
didn't make a motion.
No, I know you didn't. I know, I'm just stating my opinion. And we're almost in uncharted territory here, because no one else has ever come before us like this. I'm gonna be asking for a motion when it's over, just to let you know, as chair, to put a end time on any motion. And I'm probably gonna be asking for 11 at first and see what happens. So, if anybody has any questions for the applicant or the police chief, now's the time before we close the public hearing. You good, Mr. Administrator? Everybody good? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing at 7:30. At this point, the chair will ask for a motion to grant the request before us, contingent upon an 11 o'clock end time for any event. No motion. Chair will open up a motion to the board. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we extend the license for J&S Blue, Inc., DBA Cindy's Pub, Chase Ave, to include the request tonight. Period.
Say the motion again?
To include the request of the 10 by 40 by 150 area,
Will you include?
With the fencing, and all as they described
as
it.
as presented.
As presented, thank you.
I'll second that.
Geez, I wish you had more than that in the motion,
I'll second it for discussion.
all right?
Right? Tell me what you're thinking, Paul.
I think the two elements that we need to add somehow, John, one, that we know that extending the license means the carrying of open containers and the consumption of alcohol. We know that, so we don't have to say that.
Right.
But we should indicate that the extension outdoors is specifically for the recreation area that has been defined in this public hearing,
That was my motion,
all right?
as presented.
All right? And simply that any activities there conform to the town's existing noise policy.
I'll amend my motion to add that piece to it, if it's okay with the second.
Yes.
Oh, well, I don't care. We shouldn't have to, like you said before, the policy's already in place, we shouldn't even have to mention it.
You don't have to mention because it's already required,
Right, it's already required.
which is your point.
My big thing is, if
Yeah.
we're granting the license, it's up to the business owner to adhere to all that stuff, so we, like with the trees, we're not telling them which limb to cut, we're just setting the policy to allow the business owner to do what they want to do. And if something bad happens, then we have to
I think it's
address that.
a little stronger than setting the policy, we give them permission, but that's,
I mean, in this case, we approve the change to
Right.
license.
right. So that's the motion then, as presented, the area, the walkway,
The fencing,
it's all inferred.
Yes.
We're all on the same page. The chief talked about another camera.
Yep.
You agreed, maybe angling some other
Yeah, I was gonna get
cameras.
to, like, I have 16 already,
Right.
inside and out, so I was just gonna put up, they have like a 2-pack, you know, just put one kind of around that corner, and then maybe, I'll use the other one somewhere else, you know, like a niche inside they don't have covered or something.
You know, Jay's statement is significant. Earlier statement he made. He said that we don't have to put in how long or temporary or trial basis or any of that. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, you know the consequences.
Right.
Okay.
It's kind of the
So
same thing
it's
as
not a
inside
big
the
deal.
building,
That's right.
consequences.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman.
Town administrator.
There's nothing, Nelson was involved in this, I don't want to belabor it either, but Nelson was involved in it, and is there no restriction on this, on the height of the fence? That's the only thing I'm wondering about. And I'm only wondering not because I'm trying to limit it or make it higher or lower, but I don't want to set a precedent that it's going to be 4 feet. And now, going forward, it's 4 feet. If there is,
Well, we usually have documentation from Nelson that he went out there. I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
Usually Nelson's pretty
Yeah.
thorough.
do you know, chief?
Is the
I mean,
fence.
if it
Would
was
that be like
made,
a town thing or like a Massachusetts
Well,
thing?
either.
Just because
Because I've never been to a place where there's an outdoor entertainment and you're abutting the parking lot, I feel like, you know, they're gonna get it out of their trunk as opposed to go back into the bar and get it, you know, or take
Right,
it
but
with them.
4 feet's, I would say, like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna just like jump over a 4-foot fence.
No, but you can hand off over it, that's
Yeah.
my only issue.
I think the only experience we've had with that is I think the college would have some events, and most of those had a 4-foot fencing, because they'd have them contained. Or I know some of the festivals and different things that I've gone to in the city have done the same thing. If they've cordoned off an area, they've used the 4-foot snow fencing type thing.
Okay.
So I think that's consistently getting used. Now, whether it's something to go with 6 feet or not or whatever, but I think that's what I think is at least consistently being done. And I think this whole thing too, especially if the board's considering it's, again, a trial basis, if there's issues or it needs to be revisited and you need to extend the height of the fence in the future, you can certainly do that.
Well, right, we can also, when the license comes before us for renewal next year, we can also say,
A plastic 4-foot snow fence.
That's what you meant by
Yeah, it's like
4 foot.
construction fencing, just because in the winter, if we do have snow, the plowing, we push that snow all the way
And that
through.
makes sense.
Yeah,
For me-
like the orange crosshatch.
yeah, but they make it in black too,
But it's like that.
but it's like that, yeah, it's like mesh, like, you know,
Look, here's the point. That's not our business.
well, it is a matter of approval.
I just wanted to make sure we were within the,
Let me tell you why it's not our business, all right? A 4-foot plastic snow fence is not gonna stop someone underage from getting in if they want to get in. They will find a way. I know from experience in running a number of collegiate events and multiple college events. But if that happens, I think it's a risk. But it's not up to us to say, oh, no, you need to spend $32,000 on a 6.5-foot cyclone fence. Do I think that would be safer? Yes. But the risk is not ours. The risk is the license holders.
Yeah, but, I see your point, but I disagree. If the board feels, if the board majority feels strong enough that a 4-foot fence isn't sufficient, then it becomes our issue, because we say, no, you have to go, I'm making it up, you have to go to
Yeah.
6.5, you have to go to 7, if a majority feels that's necessary. That's, I mean, any request that alters the license, we have the absolute right to say, no, we don't agree. Whether it's a fence, whether it's a walkway, whether it's not enough cameras, whether it's time, so. People got more comments? If not, I'd be willing to call it to a vote.
I've
Terry?
a quick one, and
No,
then
no,
we'll.
Take all your
end
time
this.
you need.
I've managed a number of alcohol events in Worcester, and we've had either ropes or fences like you described, but we also had staff out there hanging around, and I don't know if that would be cost prohibitive for you. I mean, like it's been said, it's not my license, it's yours,
Right.
it's your business, And there's a big part of me that thinks you should be able to run your business as you want, as long as you're being a good citizen in town.
Right.
I wouldn't do it, but if you wanna do it, I'm not gonna stand in your way. That's the way I feel. I don't wanna tell her how to run her business. Just because I do it differently doesn't mean I should vote no. It's her license, not mine.
I don't want to see you fail.
No,
I don't wanna
absolutely.
fail,
None of us
and I'm
do.
gonna do what I
Absolutely
do
not.
now, inside, outside, you know what I mean?
And I don't want you to take what I meant was that, like, oh, I can't, no. I want you to do well.
Yeah,
We-
no,
we
and that's
say all the
like
time
why
we
I'm
want
doing it, to like
businesses do
help
well.
myself, you know, and increase like food sales and,
It makes
you know,
sense.
do these events, you know, in the long run, and it's just a nice thing to do, especially with the volleyball, like, people like to watch that.
There's nowhere else around you can do that.
Yeah, it's like an outdoor activity, it's, you know, kinda fun, get some exercise. You know, we have some runners come every Tuesday, they meet in the parking lot, they run from there, I don't know,
Can you go by my house?
but I take it pretty seriously, so I see what you're saying, but, you know, I'm not gonna do really anything much different than I already do take it seriously, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Any more questions or comments for the applicant? Mr. Joseph, you all set?
Yeah, you know, I'm just thinking, we can actually make a second motion entirely separate from approving. And that is that we can advise the license holder to ensure that perimeter fencing or barrier is sufficient to prevent underage or unwanted or uninvited or disruptive people into the events, recreational events that'll occur. And we can make that as a separate motion.
Wouldn't that be inferred, though?
Right.
I mean, I
When you
respect
have
what
a
you're
re-
saying.
When you have a real concern, it's good to go on record as stating it. It depends on how big or how strong our concern is,
Well, there's 5 of us. I'm only 20%.
you know? Well, I happen to agree with you.
Thank you.
So, no further comments, questions, nor concerns. At this time, I'll close the public hearing. Oh, we already to close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Michelle, would you please kindly just read it back for the record?
John Marcy, motion to extend the license of J&S Blue, doing business as Cindy's Pub, to approve their request as presented. Carrie, seconded for discussion. Paul, well, if you wanted to add that, extension door, and also the extension outside the door, specifically designated for the area in which the public hearing of any activities. I'm reading my notes.
John, what did you add
John,
again?
what Paul wanted to extend the license, meaning carry open containers.
Well, we decided,
You decided not to.
we said Ed
do
presented, and the
that.
other thing, the noise part was what Paul added, but
Right.
that's
Just
sort of
the
inferred.
request as presented.
Right. That was my original motion.
Right,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that long.
no.
So everybody good with the motion and a second? Call to a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, one, myself, because I want the 11 o'clock time.
Who's opposed?
I did, because I wanted the 11 o'clock time.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you. So now, do I wait for anybody else, or, I mean, I'm not gonna be up
That's
there
it,
right
I'm gonna
away.
send all the paperwork to the ABCC.
Yeah, we submit it, and then they get it back to us whenever
Yeah,
they get it back.
before-
before
sign
you,
something
before you
tonight.
leave,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask for a straw poll? How many members of the board who voted in the affirmative believe that we should have also included an 11 PM limit on any event in the newly designated recreation area? I'm okay with that, with adding that.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna defer to the sound ordinance.
Well, we didn't put that in the motion. We agreed not to put that in the motion.
It doesn't matter because it's in the motion because you have to follow it anyway.
Right, we don't have to put.
And the only way we could supersede that would be to state something that varies from the town ordinance, the town bylaw.
Sure.
And then how would that affect others that we've done in the past?
Nothing. We were doing it for this license,
It's license only.
all right? Sally, do you, under that straw poll, you got all, everybody's nodding their head. I think Jay was, I'm not sure.
Well, nobody said
Do
anything.
you want to make a motion regarding your concern?
I wasn't in the affirmative.
Hmm?
I wasn't in the affirmative.
All right. Well, no, that's all right. You can make a second motion. Or do you want us
It
to
already got
amend
defeated.
the original
I already
motion?
got defeated. I asked for a motion in the beginning with the 11 o'clock, and nobody made it. So it already got defeated.
Right. And we didn't allude,
I'm gonna get beat up twice.
Sally, we did not allude to time of closings, noise, in John's motion, which was seconded and voted on. Therefore, you can make a separate motion. None of the events shall continue past 11 PM in the evening.
I prefer not, because I did it once and it didn't pass. If somebody else that didn't vote for it wants to change their mind, I'd certainly support the motion.
Okay, I'm gonna make a separate motion then, that the license holder shall not allow any event to occur or to continue past 11 PM any night during the week.
Motion made.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Sigenovich. Any further questions, concerns? Mr. Marcy?
So, is this in the, just so this doesn't become a precedent if someone else wanted to do this?
Well, everyone would be on their own merit.
Well, I mean, we have car dealers coming up in the next public hearing. Do we tell them, hey, you can't
They
put
don't
this
have
type of car?
hours. Yeah,
What, well, but it's just us telling people how to run their business. I mean, that's how I feel about that. You know, if they get into trouble, they get into trouble. You know, and it's, you know, we're trying to encourage her. She's trying to drive revenue by doing some, you know, unique events and all that other stuff. And she's aware all of her staff is tip certified. She's got cameras. She's got, you know, police that kind of go by that can be there.
Well,
So
let me-
let me ask this question.
Wait, let me be clear. I want to see cities succeed. I want to see Sherry
course.
do well, drive her business. I know her kitchen's very active. Hear a lot of good things about it.
Yeah.
My question is not, I was shading towards Kerry, actually, about the fence, but as it was stated eloquently by members of the board, that's not, we could require a bigger fence, we didn't. So now it falls upon Sherry and her staff to ensure that that fence is sufficient.
Well, let's ask
Great.
the applicant, Stephen, how she feels about
Let's ask the applicant.
the current motion, which is 11 PM.
I'm totally good with it, because I don't wanna be out there after 11 PM anyway.
Okay.
No, I can't even think of any special event that would go beyond 11 PM, you know?
Okay.
What about that wrestling thing?
That was the
you guys did
sense
out
that I
there?
got.
No, I wanna do that again, and we had a boxing event
Oh,
one
boxing,
time.
yeah.
But, you know, it's hard to get people together that you know, to get people out there and so forth, and I think if I ever did do that again, I don't think even the last time I went past 11, you started at 7, it's a couple hours, and then you get the people inside, you know? And that would require, you know, special forces to come in, like when we did it last time, we did need EMTs and police and so forth, so I wouldn't just go do something like that on my own anyway, you know?
It might suffice to say, Mr. Chairman, that the applicant is putting a 11 o'clock basic limit on her own activities on the record. Should do it.
Codify with a vote.
I wouldn't even vote. She's saying she's not gonna, doesn't want it to go past 11 AM, 11 PM, any activity.
Do we wanna
Leave it at that.
Do we want to codify that with a vote, or just take the public statement?
Trust but verify.
That's a big jump right now. I mean, case-by-case basis will prove out whether or not we should codify it. Or as you say, codify.
So I thought you said it's not codified,
Yeah.
right?
We've got a motion and a second, don't we?
We do.
So, Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, through the chair, you're recommending we codify this with a vote? Or Do you believe
Well,
the
well,
testimony of the?
Or you have
app-
to make a statement?
What are we codifying?
We're not-
She
we're not-
just
we're not
said on the record
codifying
she's gonna
anything.
limit activities till 11 PM. Done. Move on. That's my
Codi-
recommendation.
Yeah, we're not codifying anything. Codification would occur if we said that all outdoor activities must end at 11 PM, including these.
Which we did.
No, we didn't.
We have a
All we're
motion
saying
and
is
a
that
Oh, on
this,
this motion,
We have a
this
motion and a
motion.
second.
Whatever, I'm calling it to a vote. We have a motion and a second.
Thank you.
Call to a vote.
Okay.
All in favor of the stated motion, state aye. Aye. Opposed?
nay.
2 nays? 3-2. Marcy and Johnson and then a nay. Mr. Marcy and Mr. Johnson. Perfect, thank you, Sherry.
Okay,
Thanks, Sherry.
thank you.
We got to what we wanted to get.
Sorry that took so
We
long.
did.
Next up,
In
public
a
hearing.
painful manner, but we
Zasha,
did.
you sure you wanna come up now?
So this is what my civics teacher said about laws and like making sausage. You don't want to watch it.
Yeah, you don't, it tastes good, we don't know how they got it. Board of Selectmen will continue a public hearing that was initially posted for Monday, February 24th, 2020 at 6:45 PM to be continued to Monday, March 9th, 2020 at 6:45 PM at the Dudley Municipal Complex, 71 West Main Street, Dudley, Mass., in the Veterans Memorial Hall, room 321A. Purpose of the hearing, to act on an application for a Class 2 secondhand motor vehicle license for Sam Narcovi, DBA Narcovi Auto Sales, located 65 Schofield Ave, Dudley, Mass. 01571. Anyone wishing to be heard should appear at the date and time specified or submit their concerns in writing. I declare the public hearing open at 7:48. And I apologize, I anglicized your name last time. I said Sophie instead of Zosha.
That's okay. Either, it's fine with me.
Yeah.
Thank you
Zosha,
for having us.
and this must be Sam. Sam, nice to meet you.
Hi, Sam.
Mr. Administrator.
This is a continuation from the last meeting where I think the plan was to separate some of the previously granted space for car sales and grant half of the spaces to their tenant, I believe. Was it half?
Roughly. 7 out of,
Okay, so it's 7 and 8. I think the board wanted to make sure that there was gonna be, that it was clear that there was not gonna be, based on the feedback from the abutters at the last meeting, that there was not gonna be a junkyard forming or noise violations, because they were very happy with the current ownership. They want to make sure that passing the license, splitting the license in half was not going to cause the situation to deteriorate. And I think we're in a position now where we can make sure that that's not the case.
so Sam, first off, welcome to Dudley.
Thank you.
Would you like to, does he want to talk about his business at all? Like, tell us a little bit about what he's gonna do?
Yeah, I buy car, fix and sale, used car license.
I fix sell.
There you go.
Who would like to do that? You like to
Like,
buy it
I
and
buy
sell it?
in- Must be I ship and overseas, Europe.
Cool?
any board members with questions for the applicant?
Nope.
I do.
Mr. Sigenovich.
Is this how this is going to look on Schofield Ave? All of the cars are going to be lined up in these spots? Okay. As long as they're lined up in the spots like that, I'm good with it.
I see one of the abutters present. Would you like to speak again, Bob? Come on up.
So, just to make it clear, that we are talking about a license for 7 vehicles.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, Selectmen. Thank you for hearing my concerns.
Welcome back, Bob.
Welcome back.
The parking area designated to his area is currently a fence in front of it. I don't know how we will sell cars with a fence in front of it. He has 7 parking spots and there's a fence in front of it. And the gentleman right there said, are these parking spots going to be this way? In order that I can see,
Here's a
if
fence.
he's going to keep those 7 spaces, they have to take that fence down. I'm not gonna
first and foremost, I'm not here to try to take his license away. He has to make a living. It's Henry's retirement. I'm planning on the same future across the street down the road. I'm getting ready to retire myself. I want to utilize my property and build a house on 66. I'm not trying to take his license away. I just want to make sure that this weekend again, there were cars on my sidewalk. There was actually a Mack Shell ramp truck in the middle of Schofield Ave, parked. He got out and he went into business. Left the vehicle in a lane.
Excuse me, Bob, you live across the street?
I live at 64 and I
I
also
just
own
need
a...
a yes or no. You live across?
Yes.
Okay. And you're saying that there were cars associated with whose business? Sam or Zosha?
I'm not sure if it was his business. There were cars on my, on the sidewalk and on my lawn.
In front of your house?
66 Schofield Ave. That is also a parcel of property that I own.
Okay, okay. Sam, Zosha, can you talk about that?
Yes, I can talk. I know have nothing about his property. I can people towing car tell, stopping you over here, this my place. You stopping his site. I know have nothing. It's far away from me.
The reason why they...
Nothing. I never park in car his place.
The reason
Never
why
I
they
have
park
another.
there, because there's no space in front of his business to pull in to do business.
There's what?
There is no
You can't get the truck
space
in?
for cars to pull in there for them to do business.
You're saying they can't
Front
get,
of the garage is full of cars all the time. I have nothing wrong with that. But when they start parking on my property to do business in his property, he has a lot of parking area down behind that fence. He should have access for his business to get onto his property to do business.
so, Zosha, is what Bob's indicating, the 15 spaces delineated, 3 through 9 says Sam, 10 to 15 say you folks.
Yeah.
Are any of those falling behind that fence, or is it all between the edge of the fence and the entrance to the like we have the in and out driveway in the middle? Those 15 spaces, they all fitting?
Some of them, they behind the fence, okay, and then on the front, on the side of the parking lot. So you can put like almost 12 cars right there if we want to.
On,
And on the left,
before the fence?
yes, before the fence,
Yeah.
On a property line,
yes. No.
on a property line.
So,
It's an undistinguished property line, because that land was all part of Ethan Allen or the business that had it way back when. That, all of that property was part of Ethan Allen property. And there are no designated property bounds, and there's a dispute there. And I'm not gonna get in the middle of their discussion, but I'm just looking at, I saw the spots that are designated his areas for showing his cars for sale. That's behind the fence. They take the fence down and they utilize those spots, I have no problem with it. What I have a problem with is the whole front of that garage. It never happened with Henry, it never happened with, there was another gentleman in there, and now it's just cars everywhere.
So, Bob, so, I'm sorry, so do you want him to those cars where he fixing, go behind the fence? Don't be on the front of the garage?
You can only
Because
fix so many cars at one time. That whole area should not be packed with cars.
Well, he promised.
Let's just say there's a car in that garage that catches on fire. We've already had a fire at that property once. And they can't get the car out because there's vehicles in back of it.
so, and I guess the second part of your question, well, first, I'm gonna ask the police chief. Have there been, to your knowledge, or was there recently complaints that a tow truck or a flatbed was unloading cars on Schofield, blocking traffic?
There was.
No, I know. I'm just making sure, because sometimes the chief's aware of. So,
65. This is where I could use an iPad.
so is Bob's issue, I guess, I'll ask you, I know Henry's back there. Is the issue that they can't get a flatbed in there to drop a car off? And they're just dropping them off in the road?
He didn't drop it off in the road.
No.
He stopped in the road, got out, walked in, 10, 15 minutes, and got back in the truck and left.
Oh, I thought you said he was taking the car off.
No, he just
Oh.
stopped in the middle of the road.
Just stopped.
It is
And I'm
plen-
talking about 3/4 of the lane.
Right.
It is plenty room
It's-
to,
it-
I
And it's
don't have
max-
nothing about tow truck. That's not my tow truck.
Okay.
Why can nobody tell this is stop here or stop here?
Because you're saying it was going
Well,
to...
he should have access to his properties for that tow
That's-
truck if he wants
no.
to talk to him, to park in his yard,
That's not my
do his
job.
business and leave, not in the middle of the road. That's a public safety factor.
Right, next
Big
time,
time.
next time, Bob, I'd encourage, just call and have the guys...
I
come out.
took pictures actually Saturday, but I deleted them, because when you take a picture, you could say that vehicle was just driving by.
Right.
Okay, I took a picture, that vehicle was there. Okay, what makes you say that he was parked there? That's a picture.
Never.
He could have been driving by.
I don't need, I have a lot of
and-
room.
Okay, now my,
Yeah, I know you're saying.
and then I took a picture of the two cars on my side, on a sidewalk and they weren't on my grass, but they were on a sidewalk,
Right, right.
Look at that.
public
Sidewalk,
property.
there's the fence.
I look at it.
Make room on your piece of property to do all your business.
I see what you're saying. And next, I would just strongly...
I'm not trying to,
No.
I'm not trying to get him, Lou, I want him to get his license. I want him to get his license. It's gonna benefit Henry, it's gonna benefit him.
Ask him where the fence stops.
When you see my car, that's cross the street, but here you make a picture and you won't complain. That's not my car.
I didn't say it was,
I
it's
have
your
my
business.
truck, a red
Okay,
truck.
I trust- I
But
believe
these
you.
people bringing car, I can't tell them what I can stay outside.
Right, so, Sosha, a question...
I have my
it is
truck.
plenty room to park the cars right in the
I
park.
have
property
room.
Plenty of
the
room in the
garage.
back.
So-
I have a lot of
We have
room.
lots of room there, and behind the fence, we were so many years there.
Right.
And we have plenty of room and plenty,
So spaces, I'm just gonna say spaces 10 to 15, which are indicated to be yours,
yes,
are those all behind the fence?
Yes.
these they are.
So so 3 through 9 will be visible, 10 to 15
They are not now.
will be behind the fence.
They're all behind the fence right now.
Yeah, but he doesn't have any
But
cars
I
there
have
yet.
only sometimes 3, 4 cars. And when customer bringing car for fix, I keep in the front.
You know,
But just a day.
No, I understand that fully. You gotta do your business in front of your doors.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you can't.
look,
I'm just saying,
Zosha and Henry have been selling cars there for, I don't know how many years,
over 30,
from behind,
over 30. Sorry.
from behind the fence. Right?
Yeah.
I've been there. I've been there when I was looking for cars. And they can sell them from behind. They don't have to take that fence down to sell them. The only issue, nor does he have a right to demand or ask that they take the fence down,
I'm not demanding.
all right? The main reason is people parking across the street
Pay attention, will
on his sidewalk or the property in front. So, the simple solution, and it is simple, is we tell you, Sam, and we tell you, Zosha and Henry, do not let people park across the street. If they do, tell them to get their butt over to your side of the street, period. But that's got nothing to do with the license. It does have to do with relationship with neighbors,
Right.
period.
Right, that's right.
Exactly, that's
I
okay.
agree.
So Sam has to watch if anybody park, try
I
to
tell
come talk to
moving,
him.
but
He has to
I
tell them
working,
to
I don't
move.
know what time.
Or
call me.
Jack, if Jack's there, right? Because Jack's got a couple spaces.
I watching, all the time watching. I have crossed the street, this house. When somebody parking, I rather way go tell move this side.
Two problems solved.
They have together.
It's hard to control public, you know how they are. They think the roads are public and they can park everywhere.
Right.
That's the way they do it.
Well, and again, I just,
If there was
Don't
room,
mean
if
to
there was
do it.
room in the yard, they wouldn't have to do that.
well, like again, I just strongly encourage Bob or anybody that's watching that's at a butter of any property like that, just call the PD and they'll go up there and they'll remind people that they can't be conducting business in a public roadway. If that's what they're doing, if they're parking over there to wiggle cars in and out and,
I did at one point call, and I had got a very hard time from the police department, saying that it was not their responsibility if somebody was parking on that sidewalk. I did call, and the police you can check back, it was when Sam first started there. I called, I didn't want my name to be known, I'll let it be known right now. And the police department gave me a hard time, they didn't want to come down and tell them.
Next, I can sometimes.
Sam.
Next to his house, all the time we have car parking, 2, 3. Nobody complain. next house to his.
Next to him?
Before his house.
On their own property where he lives, yes.
Same, exactly same road, same
That guy lives
house,
there.
3 cars,
Okay,
all the
yeah,
time
okay.
parked.
On the
Nobody
sidewalk or in
complain.
the driveway?
He is correct.
Yeah, and
That's
When
at,
somebody wrong,
that's at
somebody
62.
call me,
They park
Oh,
on
I
the,
know
She told
exactly,
me
oh,
that.
yes.
62 and 60, yes.
I live right near you guys, yes, I
Absolutely.
see that.
they park
He
on,
is
they park
correct.
on the sidewalk
On
also?
the sidewalk.
Well, then chief's gonna have to.
And I'm gonna be honest with you,
Rental, they're
in the
renter.
wintertime,
They rent.
I have a plow. I plow from Brandon Road to George Street, the sidewalk, every year since I've been there.
You've been there a long time.
Every year since I've been there, I put my plow down at Brandon Road, and I don't pick it up until I get to George Street. Now there's cars parked there, I don't plow it anymore.
Right. Well, that's,
I tried to be a good citizen.
no,
A
good
lot of
neighbor.
people were old,
Yeah,
they couldn't take care of it. I'm young, I could, and I did.
well, that's something, now it's on the chief's radar, I'm sure the chief will have somebody take care of that. If they're on the sidewalk, they'll be off, they gotta be
And
off.
he is absolutely 100% correct.
yeah, the car's always
62
there,
is
nobody
always
complains.
there.
He says,
I'm not
but
saying
that-
always.
somebody
Nobody complain.
park in
60,
front of the garage
60,
is
there's
the
always someone
problem.
there.
Really be quiet neighbor, nobody,
Yeah.
nothing, nobody
Yep.
bother, nobody. It's
Well,
I like this
I'm gonna
place.
take your word, because I don't go by there at night too often, and it's on the chief's radar now, and the chief will address it, and we'll get the cars off. They
We
will,
keep going to checking, make sure, you know,
Yeah.
it's right, and
No,
we
no.
checking over time.
I agree. Any further questions?
Just a statement.
Any-
I'd like it to be that these are his spaces for his cars. He can't have any outside.
But
Straight.
also, Henry and Socia said that he could use their spaces. So I'm not taking spaces away from them. They said, so Henry and Socia said that they are designating spaces for him. And he can also use, there's 2 spaces on the property line, on the left-hand side of the property. It continues down towards George Street, and there's 2 spaces on the side of the garage. I'm not saying he cannot use those spaces, because Henry and Socia said it was, and I'm all for Henry and Socia. If he wants to use those spaces and they want to give them up, I have nothing to say about that.
He won't, yeah, we do, because he won't be able to, because the license is gonna
Well,
specifically
don't.
state.
I'm not trying to squash this, okay?
No, but the license is gonna state how many cars he can have. If the license says he has 6, 7 spaces, he can't,
That's for sales?
that's what he's
So
asking
now
for.
all the junk cars in the back,
They're not his.
I know have a junk car in the front, all car go for
if they're
fixing,
Henry's, that's fine.
for fixing. My neighbor first house, I gave him half parking, I can park here and 4 more car. He's using for trailer, for,
That's the property
Oh,
line of this
this,
discrimination.
that's my property,
No,
it's my property. I gave it to neighbor, put trailer, put this, for house fix and stuff, I can put 6 car, more.
Anthony paved that
No,
property.
I didn't know it's pay or
Yeah,
not
look,
pay,
look,
that's
that
my
property.
property.
Look, Jesus, why the hell are we going down these side streets that mean nothing? Those 7 spaces are 7 spaces that would be allocated for him to display cars that are for sale. Not cars he's working on, not junk cars, not cars for parts. Cars that are for sale. What he does elsewhere and what state those vehicles are in, it's entirely up to him in the course of running his business.
Exactly.
Henry and Zosha have had junk cars and partial cars and parts cars there for as long as I've known them, which goes back to when I moved to Dudley.
30 years.
All right? So we don't need to go beyond junk cars being there. Those 7 spaces are cars for sale, period. That's what we're looking at for the license.
Correct. That's
That's all.
That's what I was just trying to clarify when it was brought up he could park cars somewhere else. No, he can't. Those are his spaces, and that's it.
Not cars that are for sale, but he can park other cars elsewhere on the
Right.
property.
Can't be
Cars for
using-
sale will be in those 7 designated areas.
Right.
Other cars, do whatever he wants.
Well, the good thing is, the board grants the license, and if there's a problem, the building inspector determines violations.
Right.
So, any further questions for the applicant?
Nope. 8:07.
Public hearing closed at 8:06. Chair will call to a vote.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we
Mr. Massey.
approve the Class 2 license for secondhand vehicles to Nunkanovi Auto Sales located at 65 Schofield Ave to Sam, Nunkanovi owner.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further questions or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Bob.
much.
Bob, thanks for
Thank
coming
you
in.
for hearing my concern.
Of course,
Anytime.
Appreciate
of
it.
course. Thanks, Joshua. All right.
I hope the rest of our
Thank
night's
you.
gonna be easier.
Gonna fly right into executive session.
Well, I'm glad you
I
ate.
don't know.
I'm glad you ate tonight.
Nobody wants to meet every week, though. We'll pack them all into one night, though. You guys got the right idea.
Yeah, but when we're talking about minutia, like,
Well, you know what? It's all minutia till something goes wrong. Next up on the agenda, if Mr. Massey is so inclined to allow
I
me,
am, Mr. Chairman.
I gotta find it. I lost it.
What happened?
I got it.
Agenda? Here.
Old business, none. New business, special town meeting warrant per Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 10. Warrant opens March 9, 2020. Warrant will close tomorrow, March 10, 2020. Last day to post, March 20, 2020. Special town meeting date, March 30,
Wait a minute.
2020.
Before we vote on it, Mr. Chairman, 14 days before the meeting.
No,
Yes.
7 days.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's,
oh,
it's
special,
14 for
14.
everything. Yeah, that's all right.
We're
So
gonna make it.
if we didn't vote yet, so we'll just make it March 13th, right?
Hold on.
Yeah. Last day to post warrant, March 13th.
Last day to post,
Oh.
13th, not the 20th,
She changed that.
right? Jonathan, change that to the 13th.
Let's
Yeah.
change that to the 13th.
Chair declares the warrant open at March 9th, 2020.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
What Chair declared it.
Trying to upstand them now.
Usually don't call for a vote, just declare it open. So you will post and the warrant will close tomorrow at the close of business.
Here's the warrant.
Right.
We don't have to read it.
So this is,
This is for the special town.
this is for the special. Before it's posted, this may be modified. The spirit of it will not be modified. The wording and language may be, based on my meeting tomorrow.
We don't have to read it then. We'll
Right.
trust the administrator to
Sign this?
tighten the language.
Oh, yes. Oh.
Yeah, three
Oh, yeah.
separate, three originals,
Yeah, we're gonna sign that
I
before we
sign
pass
this?
it back.
Yeah.
Pass it?
Which one? That one?
All of them,
three originals.
all three.
I only see one.
No,
They're gonna come back.
There's another
Yeah,
one.
wait, what?
Yeah, it's red paper clips.
Let me see everything.
Smooth.
Ripped from my,
Well, you know what I mean.
Something we haven't voted on yet.
No, but it's for the special town meeting. He's gonna get the exact language. He's just giving us like the gist of it.
right,
The language will be tightened
I
tomorrow.
didn't tell you that. No, you're right.
Okay.
I didn't tell you that. She just
But we'll
changed
just give him the right to post. Open and close and post it tomorrow.
so we just need the one to come back this
It's
way.
coming.
Right.
While we're signing that, annual town meeting warrant per Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 10. Warrant will open March 9, 2020. Citizens petition must be in for a warrant close by March 23rd, 2020, 1 PM. Last day to post the warrant, May 8th, 2020.
It's 10 days.
We have to change that.
Well,
Hang on one second. Please.
It's May 4th, fall.
There's one I'm missing.
Yeah,
That one?
he wants to do
First one.
14 days prior.
so you and I have to sign this.
Into the page.
So these
So-
are all done?
Before I declare it open, we have to change that date, right?
Is it a page missing?
That's what I said.
He's just checking the calendar.
Okay.
Want to meet everyone?
Yeah, Monday the 4th would work, Mr. Chairman.
I agree with you on something.
We could actually close it May 1st, that's a Friday, just to
So-
give us the extra day, but May 4th also falls on a Monday, so that would work as well.
Which one do you want?
So the
Let's
posting.
go with the 4th. Go with the 4th.
So, to back up, annual town meeting warrant per Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 10. Warrant opens March 9, 2020. Warrant closes for citizen petition articles March 23rd, 2020 at 1 PM. Last day to post the warrant would be May 4th, 2020 at 4 PM. 4 PM.
As long as we have a full 14 days, yeah.
Annual town meeting date is May 18th, 2020 at Shepherd Hill. Chair declares the warrant for the annual town meeting open. Thank you, everyone. Next up, Shepherd Hill Booster Club, Tony Zanotti. Permission to hold a toll booth on Saturday, May 9th, 2020 for the Shepherd Hill
Sorry.
baseball softball field renovation. Sorry, Tony, we probably could have took you earlier.
That was fun.
Government in action. Michelle, is his
Anyone on
application
this since,
all set?
I'm on that committee?
Hi.
This doesn't really have an application, he's going for.
Permission to hold a toll booth on Saturday, May 9th.
Nothing before it or after it, how we don't do 3
No,
weeks
we're
in a
all
row.
set. He's claims set.
Tony, you want to say a little bit about yourself, get some free publicity for this, or you want us just to vote on it and send you on your way?
No, absolutely. So my name is Tony Zanotti. I'm a resident of Dudley, Mass. Been here since 2000. I'm a volunteer assistant softball coach at Shepherd Hill for the varsity team. We had a lot of bad weather in the beginning of the season last year. The field doesn't drain for both baseball and softball, so we played a lot of road games last year. So a number of people got together with connection to the trying to think through the Booster Club, sorry, and we decided to start raising money outside using public donations, going to local businesses, trying to raise money to fix the field conditions for both baseball and softball. In doing so, we've already raised a considerable amount of money. Shepherd Hill had found some other money to be able to do some minor repairs to the field, aeration, slice seeding, backfill with some sand. We're raising the money to do more to the fields, fix the infields, put new backstops up that are 30 to 40 years old. Dugouts will hopefully be donated. Scoreboards eventually is what we're looking to do, so. And obviously, we're doing, I was here last week, we're doing a car wash a week from this coming Saturday at the water department, and then we'd like to do this as well to help raise the money.
All right, so have you spoken to the police chief about the way the toll booth has to be set up, the way it has to be ran?
So I received
Toll booth policy?
the toll booth policy, correct, based on any minors under the age of 18 have to be off to the side of the road, only adults are
Time
allowed to
restricted.
be, correct, yep. We're not
Time
allowed.
restricted, 9 to 12.
I
Oh,
don't think there was a time restriction, was there?
isn't it 9 to 12?
9 to 12.
With a toll booth?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's 9 to
There is a
12, okay.
time, yeah.
And chief, you want to make sure he just touch base with you? Let's just generally have the chief just touch base to make sure you set it up right, the way they have to stop the traffic.
No, absolutely, yep,
So just make sure you just get with him before,
before the event,
yeah.
absolutely.
Because if he comes back to us and says nobody talked to him, then we're probably going to call you back in.
You can
Understood.
vote on it. I can vote on it.
Where's the car wash gonna
Oh, no,
occur?
if you were gonna
The
have
car
a
wash
vote,
is gonna occur at the water department
On West Main.
on West Main, yep.
You can
Okay.
vote on it.
Mr.
Don't
Chairman,
promote
I'd
it.
like to make a motion that we allow the Shepherd Hill Booster Club permission to hold a toll booth on Saturday, May 9th for the Shepherd Hill baseball softball field renovations for a time between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further questions for the applicant? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Just for the record, I just want to let everybody know that I am on that committee with Tony, so just want for the record that I do support that, and to call that out. No conflict of interest.
So that was a point of information.
Point of information, Mr. Joseph. Thank you.
Good luck.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
See you, Tony.
Next up, Sean Bowes, which has become an annual right for about 8 years, Sean? 9. Sorry, I missed one.
Every year I've been on the board.
Permission to hold a toll booth on Saturday, June 6, 2020, to raise money for the PMS Challenge. We have a small handout by Mr. Bose. My name is Sean Bose. I share my son Bailey, who will have to wear a tight helmet because his head's going to slow him down, his hair.
Yeah, helmet's not gonna fit this year.
Yeah, no kidding. Gotta get rid of that pink one and get a new one. My son Bailey, my daughter Brooke, and I are riding and raising money for the Pan Mass Challenge. I'd like to ask you for an opportunity to hold the toll booth drive May 30th, 2020, or June 6th, being the preferred date now, or? Is that the
Yes,
range?
because of
June
hands.
6th.
Yeah.
So the date would be June 6th, 2020. Thank you in advance for your generosity, kindness, and support to this event. Any questions for the applicant? Mr.
I think,
Zignevich.
I think you know the procedure by now, 9 to 12, you've talked to the chief,
Yes.
no kids in the middle.
No.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we allow Sean Bowes permission to hold a toll booth on Saturday, June 6th, 2020, between the hours of 9 AM and 12 PM to raise money for the Pan Mass Challenge.
Second.
Motion made in multiple seconds. Any further questions for the applicant? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
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 Unanimous. Before you go, how did you do this semester, first semester?
Dean's List. First
Dean's List?
semester. Yes.
Well, we know you're a good student. You've got big shoes to fill.
Most of you guys are on Dean's
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're on Dean's List.
No,
Different
Dean, different than
There
this
is a
stuff.
question.
Hang on.
Al asked good questions.
Yeah. Well, Bailey did too. Bailey used to be on the griddle though, next to Mr. Joseph with the questions, sports questions.
Right.
What else happened this week? Are we invited? That was always a famous one.
We invited.
Are we invited to that event?
Right.
Congratulations, Bailey.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks,
Check in
Sean.
once in a while.
See ya.
I will.
All right. Sean, good luck.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Board member comments, Mr. Joseph.
None.
Mr. Johnson.
None.
Mr. Marcy.
None for me, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Sigenovich.
Nothing. It's gone on too long.
Nothing myself. Departmental communications, police.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one thing on the bucket brigades. I know the Hands Group, I don't know if they've been in, have they been in yet to request it? They're usually in to request it on Memorial Day weekend, so that one you might want to pencil aside on the 23rd. And I would just suggest probably not issuing any more for May and June, just because they're going to be very well.
Got everybody in there though, Little
very
League.
close.
Right?
Nobody left.
Yeah, I think everybody's in. There's some in April, Little League is in April, and then, yeah, these guys there, so just something to keep in mind.
We're gonna do it for Selectmen's Christmas party.
Southbridge.
You're gonna need 2 days for that one, I think.
Depends when we can have it outside. We do it in the summer.
Just a little thing on, so Mariano will start this weekend, and actually comes in at a pretty decent time, because I have 2 guys that are out injured from off-the-job injuries, and they've been out for several weeks, and probably will be out a few more weeks. And then Louis Pacheco started the academy on February 24th. So Mariano's coming in at a good time to help us out, kind of get through the rest of the year. But that was about it. Then I think it's April, I think it's 27th. It's the last Saturday in April is our drug take-back day. So I'll have something out on that pretty soon.
What day is it, Chief?
I believe it's the 27th.
March?
It's the last Saturday in April. And we usually go from like 9 to 1.
Thank you, Chief.
No,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and on toll booths, by the way, I have received a request from the Left-Handed Society of America to see if they can hold a toll booth also in the same location. So that'll be coming up later on.
I'll have a point of information
Left-Handed
because you're a
Society-
left-hander.
Now,
The Left-Handers Society Association.
That's a double entendre, because there's
Handed.
different meanings
Say
of
that 10
left-handed.
times fast.
There's different meanings of left-handed. You may not know. Mr. Paletta, Highway. Nice job on the guardrail, Danny. Vinny, up on,
Yeah, we just started that. That was one of my things. I just wanted to say, we are working there. We got a pretty decent work zone set up. Just people that are driving by, use safety, slow down and make sure we keep it safe. That's all. And the other thing is everybody's getting spring fever and wondering when the streets are going to get swept. We have a brand new street sweeper. The training for that is set up, I believe, the end of next week. I'd like to have the machine out there probably the end of the last week of this month, and then probably, it should take probably 3 or 4 weeks to sweep the town, so.
And again, you do the
No need,
ponds.
no need to call and try to figure out when we're gonna get out there. That's gonna be the basic, timeline.
All we can tell them is we do around the waters first, right? usually
We do.
Yeah, so if you live near the water, you'll probably see this,
Yep.
the new sweeper first.
Stormwater management.
Yes.
It's a huge.
And almost complete with modifying the old street sweeper. We're converting that into a catch basin cleaner only.
Into a
And,
what?
We're converting
Catch
the
basin cleaner.
old street sweeper into a catch basin cleaner only. And that project's almost completed by the shop, our shop. And that'll be out there working very shortly also.
It's fantastic.
Thanks, Vinnie.
Thank you, Annie.
Resourceful.
Scott, you want to speak on water sewer? You all set? This time, the chair will entertain a motion for adjournment into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, subsection A4, to discuss deployment of...
Student rep, Mr. Chairman,
Oh, sorry, student rep.
That's all good, it's all right.
I must have missed it on the agenda. Oh, no, I didn't.
No, I didn't put them on.
It's not on there.
It's not on there.
It's a lot.
Yeah, let the record reflect, I did not skip it. It was not on there.
Sorry.
I won't hold it
Sorry,
against
Al.
you, I promise. So March 11th is the Wizards fundraiser on Wednesday. We're hoping to get a lot of people out there for the PTO and all that, so that should be really fun. Dodgeball tournament is on March 13th on Friday. That's ran by Student Council. They always do a great job. March 22nd is the percussion and guard show at Shepherd Hill. That starts at noon. Winter guard and winter percussion did well last week. Winter percussion went to Melrose, and winter guard went to New Bedford. And sadly, the foreign language trip was canceled due to the coronavirus concerns across Europe and here. So they decided to call that off, which was a very sad time for a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah, Victoria.
Show choir went to Daniel Hand in Connecticut. Illusion took grand champs, and Fantasy got first runner-up. Learning showcase is on the 26th of March. NHS induction is on April 2nd, and the student council went to Hyannis for the student council.
Annual Hyannis trip?
Yeah, they go and do activities, and there's speakers and team building stuff, and they have a fun time.
You know they closed Italy,
Yeah,
the whole country.
Yeah.
yeah.
Japan
A
sent
lot
you-
of
Japan sent all their schools closed for a month. Month of
all
March.
the kids were really bummed out about it. I felt
Yeah.
so bad. I was like, that really sucks.
Matter of fact, I believe, I'll speak out of turn for our neighboring town, I believe the Oxford School Committee's meeting tonight to probably do the same thing. Cancel their trip.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Chief, fire and EMS.
Sorry, brush fires.
Oh. Thank you. I'll make a joke.
All right, so I was asked to speak on this by the town administrator. I'll make this statement. I'm not trying to jump on anybody's toes. I know this may be Board of Health's area, but I've been
We're a
getting...
team.
Huh?
We're a team, there's no toes to jump on.
Okay, Peter.
Hurry
up. But anyway, so I get updates from Memer on coronavirus. I know he's gotten some calls. I know the media's got everybody ramped up. Good job. But as of March 6, 2020, total confirmed cases in Massachusetts, 1. Total presumptive positive cases, 7. Massachusetts residents subject to quarantine as of March 3rd. Individuals subject to quarantine, 719. Total of individuals have completed monitoring and are no longer in quarantine of 470. Total individuals currently undergoing monitoring under quarantine, 249. So I don't know how many of you have been watching the news. I think people should be more concerned about regular flu symptoms like influenza A and B, which can be much more life-threatening than coronavirus. I know there's no inoculation for coronavirus, but they're saying that regular flu is more detrimental to people than this is. The people that need to worry are the people that have underlying conditions in the elderly population. I also have these pamphlets that I'll leave over there if anybody wants them, or Michelle can pass them out tomorrow. Just basic hand washing and hygiene things that you should be doing to prevent any kind of sickness. So if anybody calls, you can tell them that.
There hasn't been a lot of guidance, Mr. Chairman, from the state in terms of how to handle, I mean, I think it's starting to come out for public safety and educational institutions and so forth, and I've asked Michelle to sit in on a conference call about municipal buildings and how to regularly start the process of making sure that we're maintaining the right conditions that keep it sanitary, but I just want to make sure that the board is aware that we're monitoring it, we're on top of it, but there's not a lot of guidance forthcoming, so we're trying to be as proactive as possible.
Obviously, you should be practicing clean hygiene. If you're sick, stay home. Wash your hands. Cover your mouth when you cough. All kinds of common sense things that you should be doing anyway for regular winter germs. I mean, the mask thing, the masks are for people that are sick already. They're the ones who should be wearing it. And people that have like immunosuppressed systems, like people that are doing chemo treatments and things like that, but it does no good for me and you to put a mask on. It doesn't prevent anything, you know. Keep your hands out of your face, you know.
Should we stock up on TP and stuff like everybody else?
No, I don't understand that either. I mean, it's just, the media's got everybody ramped up. I'm not saying it's not a bad thing and you shouldn't be cautious, but you shouldn't be no more or less cautious than you would for normal flu. So if people call with questions, you can hand out those pamphlets. If I get any more information, I'll pass it along to the administrator.
So the public message is that whatever guidance is available, we're on it, and we'll get it out if it needs to go out.
Check out these Twitter page, check the...
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't get on any cruise ships.
Now it's time to go, it's gonna be on there.
Oh, yeah. No, our friend did. She went. She's out of New Jersey the other Sunday.
And? Sorry, Chief.
I just want to, that's fine. You're all set with that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
I just wanted to remind people of the open burning laws. We're issuing permits. I just came from a brush fire. We've had a few in the last 2 weeks. We have to respond if we're called. People are supposed to have a water source. They're supposed to only burn between 10 and 4. They're only supposed to be burning brush. It's supposed to be 75 feet from any structure, and they're supposed to monitor it the whole time. I mean, I've got people walking in houses, leaving fires unattended. They come back out, their yard's on fire, the neighbor's yard's on fire. I go through this every year, and it's right here, printed right here when you get the permit. Now, I'm not going to keep doing this. If people aren't going to follow the rules, I'll just cancel burning. I have that authority.
What if they don't, what if they burn without a permit? What's the
I
consequences?
can fine them.
How much?
$100 the first time.
Okay. Did you have a permit for up on Airport Road for today?
I don't know. I'd have to go back in the log and
Because
look.
somebody was burning up there. I mean,
Wasn't me.
no.
No, it wasn't me.
Point to Kerry in case,
Oh, yeah.
in case he could smell it also.
I mean, I'm not, I don't want
How's the
people to
Traeger?
get, I don't want people to get the wrong idea, Mr. Chairman. I'm not against burning. Burning's fine. I'll leave people alone. If people want to burn, then burn, but just follow the rules. That's all I'm asking. It's starting to get dry out there. The surface fuels are dry. I know under the ground is a little wet, but you get a little bit of wind. Like today, we had a fire earlier. I mean, it was only a half an acre. Within a matter of 5 minutes, it was a couple acres because it got down into the wood line. So, I mean, I'm all for people burning. I get it. You got to get rid of your brush, but just follow the rules. Show some common sense, and then a lot of these fires would be prevented.
Leaves. Can't burn leaves, right?
No.
I'm just mentioning that because I see a lot of people burning leaves.
Big piles of leaves.
Yeah.
Put some weight on it.
It's all rotted. Thank you, Chief.
That's all I got.
Sure, pal.
Appreciate it. Nice job running out and coming back.
Thank you, Chief.
Now, we'll adjourn and convene into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21, A4, to discuss the deployment of and strategy regarding security device, cybersecurity town networks, and infrastructure vulnerability assessment, Selectmen's briefing and recommendations, True North Consulting, not to convene an open session. The close of executive will be a close of our business. Roll call vote.
Motion, so moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Gary Singer of a chai.
Good night, all.
We're gonna
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
We're just gonna go in my office
Happy
and do
St.
it.